Logan Smothers. Is he coming back to Nebraska? Is the door open for him to come back for Nebraska? Where is he looking? This is what I can tell you. I can give you a little update here on what I know.
Okay.
Logan Smothers graduates Saturday.
Yes.
And his focus this week has been graduating.
Okay.
So getting that done. With that said, there's been a number of teams that have reached out to Logan Smothers. And I think you have to if you're Logan Smothers, you have to sift through the attention you're getting because some of these teams are just looking at you as a really, really good insurance policy. And some maybe want you to come in and try to win the job. So does he want to be a number 2 again, win the job? But really, ultimately, the biggest priority, I think, for Logan Smothers is getting closer to family because his family and him are really close. Mom and dad have been to every game. Even during the COVID 2020 year, they went to a lot of those games. Mm-hmm. And they've driven over 15 hours to watch every one of his games at Nebraska.
Yeah, and you wrote it. There's some jobs that he has a legitimate shot at. Jacksonville State
with
UAB,
Rich Rodriguez.
Yeah, Jacksonville State with Rich Rod, UAB with Trent Dilfer, and West Virginia. Now, West Virginia's not close. Obviously, the other two are. But those are legitimate chances.
Those are the likely ones for me. That's where he probably ends
really?
up. UAB and Jacksonville State, for what he's looking for,
Mm-hmm.
an opportunity to start and close to home, that's 2 great options.
He's had some big-time schools reach out. I mean, Syracuse sought to visit. Notre Dame sought to visit. West Virginia. Florida Atlantic sought to visit. They wanted him to visit. He's had a good
A&M, Central Florida,
yeah,
Mississippi State, UAB,
yep, Utah State. Yeah, yes. He's had some good schools. So yeah. And now you at this point, you do not think he'll be back at Nebraska.
I don't think it's likely. Here's the biggest thing. He's got his degree.
Yeah.
He's walking out of here Saturday with a degree in hand, new coach, didn't go through spring with a new coach. I think for him, it's like, this is a perfect opportunity to start fresh.
Mm-hmm.
I got my degree at this university. I loved my time here.
They did.
But I think he's thinking about his family now too.
Yeah, I think he did. Remember, I mean, the only thing I'm going off is the last time he talked to the media, and he made it very clear he liked it here, liked it school-wise, liked his teammates, liked the program. So I don't think he was in any rush to leave. But it doesn't. I mean, this is a good update because that question is out there still. Is there a chance he'd come back? And it doesn't look like it.
No, and Logan's really private. He's not going to say much about this stuff. NIL, not a priority. I know some of the teams that have reached out, NIL gets brought up, and he's not worried about NIL. Like,
he wasn't here.
No, like, I can tell you within the collective, almost every scholarship guy gets some sort of opportunity. And he didn't really even respond. He didn't care. Like, it wasn't even a priority for him to get NIL.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, Sean.
So, yeah, I mean, and I want to talk about NIL real quick before we move on to the next headline, because I thought On3 had an interesting article about NIL and
yes.
how it's changed so much. It's not just high school driven. In fact, it's phasing away from writing big checks to unproven 18-year-olds to more writing the big checks for really, really good freshman and sophomore transfers.
Well, it's a fascinating development because what Ernest Hausman's a good example. If you have a true freshman who makes his mark early in your program, like Ernest Hausman or AJ Allen. Now, Sean, I know it's kind of harsh to say this, but teams will come after your guy. They'll recruit right off your roster, right? And I think do people understand that, Sean?
Well, and
people understand that,
and they can get to you, and that's can you retain your players as much as can you go out and sign new guys with NIL? I mean, that's more of NIL now, is more retaining the ones that you have. They're going to be good.
Yes and no. I mean, I don't think that, Sean. I think it would be inaccurate to say that with every player that's a straight up bidding war, because we just covered the fact that Logan Smothers' NIL was inconsequential to him. I'm not sure that Ernest Hausman, it just became a straight up bidding war. Michigan's offered me more, I'm gone. I don't think it was
no.
that. I think there's some players where that's the case. I do. I think there's some players where it's literally school X has given me this. This is what I need.
Like a year ago, like Casey Rogers, it felt like, he saw what O'Shawn Mathis was probably getting to come here. He didn't have anything close to that. And he's like, I'm going to put my name in the portal and get money.
Right. Now, but it's not. the thing you have to do as a fan and a media member is be very careful not to throw a blanket over these conversations, because these kids are different. They're not all the same. They don't all think of it the same way. So I don't know, but it's fascinating. The big takeaway from that article for me was the On3 article to which you refer was, if you're Nebraska and you're not in the upper echelon, you're not a top 15 team, and you have a true freshman who plays well.
Ernest Hausman, A.J. Allen.
Yeah, there's some danger there. Now, there is. You want him to play well, but you understand, okay, he's playing well, and you've said it many times, Hausman went to Michigan in Ann Arbor this year and had a bang-up game. Looked great. Well, Michigan noticed.
And Ohio State noticed too.
Yeah, let's get him.
He visited Ohio State, Iowa, and Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan's they got a little depth issue at linebacker. Not terrible, but they have a little depth issue. They had an injury, and they're looking for pass rushers. Hausman, I mean, he's not an edge rusher, but he can get to the quarterback, athletic. So there you go. And Hausman can meet their academic standards, which are fairly rigid. So there you go. But yeah, that's a fascinating article. It's sort of to the detriment of high school recruiting, what's happening out there. Teams, big time teams, are looking at other rosters.
And Steve, what happens when you transfer once?
You're locked in to that school.
And so there's a real value financially.
Right.
If you can get an Ernest Hausman,
you got it.
And you lock him in,
right?
That's good money spent.
Right. Because the high school kid you might have, and then he might leave.
And you might spend a lot of money for a really good high school recruit, and then he could leave you.
Yeah, who leaves?
And that's bad money spent.
Yeah. Hausman's locked in at Michigan. A.J. Allen's locked in at Miami. I mean, people really got upset with me last season when I just said in a tweet that A.J. Allen's got to be a hot commodity in the NIL market. Man, I got hammered. I just got hammered by fans. I don't think they understood what the deal was. That's the way it's kind of working.
He was making good NIL money, though. I have pretty good.
I know you do.
Information on that, and as he was
making real money,
as his play improved, his NIL opportunities and money went up higher last year. So that was not the issue. And I read some people try to say that Nebraska lowballed Dylan Raiola. Well, now we know that Dylan Raiola doesn't plan to take any NIL money his first year.
Right. There's been reports.
There's a lot of narrative reporting on just anonymous people, but what we know is Dylan Raiola, Arch Manning, some of these guys, they're not taking NIL.
Not taking money. He wants to earn it. So he's not. That's not a factor.
And I think it is. I mean, it's a good point. Like, you're going to give some kid $2 million that's never played before.
Well, some schools will do it. I mean, UT's done it. Tennessee. I mean, Sean, I don't begrudge anybody who does it.
How much money did we hear that Michigan State receiver got in the portal? Was it 6? 8?
5 to 7.
5 to 7. So
excuse me, 500,000 to 700,000. That's the market
for the top guy.
Yeah, 500,000 to 700,000. That was the price range, and we didn't hear that from somebody who doesn't. We heard that from somebody who knows very intimately.
Well, and we know, like, the market for like a Casey Thompson was about 200.
Yeah,
for a quarterback like that.
Yeah, yeah.
McNamara at Iowa, I've heard 250.
There you go.
So, like, I mean, you get kind of the bear.
That's for a season, right?
Yeah,
that's for a season.
And a lot of people don't understand NIL contract stuff. When you sign these service contracts, they're 1 year. So at the end of December or January, when the year's over, you have to do a new one. And
how would people know? I mean, now On3 does a good job of covering it, but it's not. You don't see a lot of coverage of NIL in mainstream media. Correct me if I'm wrong.
On3 is like one of the only places that does.
Right.
I mean, Pete Nakos, Jeremy Crabtree. I mean, they're incredible. What some of the like. And then the latest story they talked about were, schools of having multiple collectives and how big of a detriment that can be for a school. You have to have one strong backed collective for an athletic department in order to kind of push through. And,
because with two, there's some confusion
and it creates issues. So, Nebraska technically really only has one, but the athletic department still endorses more than one. Yeah. So it's an interesting conversation.
Creates confusion.
Because there's spots to donate money to the other collectives still, and it's on the university's website. But we know there's really only one that's operable right now, that's giving lots of money, that's, committed to millions of dollars to paying Husker student athletes. So it'll be interesting to see kind of some of these NIL things and the conversations that come